What is up, and welcome to the W Sports Podcast. It's Jimothy and Tubby. We are bringing it back today. Day one recap, going into day two of the NFL draft. I know you all haven't missed a thing so far because you've been subscribed to the show. You've been following along with Tubby's analysis, his deep dives, all of his picks. And yeah, Tubby, you had a good day yesterday.
I mean, at the end of the last episode, our preface was like, just don't take this to heart because more than likely it's not going to go the way we think. And the first 8 picks, outside of the trade between the Jags and the Browns, I had right. So if they wouldn't have traded, I would have had it the first 8 picks right. And so I was like, hey, and then on top of that, I did predict that the Bears would draft a tight end. They ended up going with the other tight end, but still. Yeah. And then like last night they were talking, Greenberg was like, I don't think anyone mocked Tetero McMillan to the Panthers. And I was like, obviously you weren't listening to the W Sports Podcast.
You just gotta listen. That's what we've been saying for almost 5 years now, which is crazy. Or going on 4 years. Going into year 5 later this summer, which is absolutely crazy. But yeah, that's right, because Tubby's bringing it. He wasn't messing around. So for those who are joining, this is going to be live stream. We will wrap up well before the second round starts because we know Tubby's engaged. I'm going to be watching it. You're going to be watching it. But we really just wanted to jump on today and get thoughts. So if you are here, you're joining us, please put your thoughts for your team, maybe the draft night as a whole, what you thought of Sanders dropping out of the first round. How long will it take him to get drafted? Today? Hopefully today, right? Round 2 and 3. So we're going to get into that. But Tubby, I need you to know, outside of just nailing the first round, what was your overall thoughts of the draft night itself? How did Wisconsin do? How's Green Bay doing with this? I mean, is it good festivities?
I mean, okay. Would you say you kind of froze for a second?
Oh, dang. Okay, no, I was saying, how is the draft prep for you? Not prep, but how is the whole atmosphere been? It's your Green Bay Packers, it's Lambeau, compared to Detroit and even Kansas City the year before that, and how it used to be, in New Jersey or whatever.
Yeah, so the population for Green Bay, Wisconsin is 105,000. There's 205,000 people at the draft last night. So there was over 100,000 more people just at the draft than there was for the population of Wisconsin, Green Bay, Wisconsin. So everything I've heard is that, like all the players that were in the green room, all the analysts, and they're like, this place is amazing. They treat us like we are from Green Bay, super welcoming and stuff like that. So I think it's awesome to see that the draft is in Titletown. We didn't know how this was going to go because it is a small city, small town compared to where it has been in the past, New York, Chicago, Detroit, Dallas, Kansas City. And it seems like it's going off pretty well, except for maybe today because it is raining right now.
Yeah, weather's going to play a part of it. There's still, I think, going to be quite a few people. It is chilly there. It is chilly. It's still Wisconsin in April, and you're like, ooh, so that's part of it. But so far, very impressed with what they've done. I'm glad they have it, not necessarily like a downtown with Green Bay, which I don't think is a thing, but like having it there with the stadium as the backdrop is a great touch. And it's one of the most actual fan-oriented organizations in professional sports, where most of them are not. They're, this is one of them that is very fan-forward, which is a great thing for the sport. So definitely a good element. We were just texting back and forth about the YouTuber G-Fed who found his way on stage, got to go through the tunnel. He was in the player. Dude is a legend for still being able to get. He's like, I'm just gonna see, and it's open every time. So it was good. If you haven't seen him before, go on YouTube. G-Fed, G-F-E-D, and you can go see. He's done every single Division I stadium. He's done a lot of basketball stadiums, stuff like that. He only goes in. Well, you know what? Just go watch. Go watch. He has rules that he does. He doesn't break in anywhere, but it is hilarious. He stayed late after the draft yesterday. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a legend move. So let's go ahead and tell me overall thoughts. Cam Ward obviously went 1. Sanders wasn't taken. Dart. The only 2 quarterbacks were actually taken so far compared to last year's. Overall thoughts on that?
Yeah, I thought there would be 3. I really thought Sanders would get drafted in the first round, but I also wasn't surprised because I'm pretty sure I said it a couple months ago saying that I wouldn't be surprised if Shedeur Sanders slid out of the first round after all the stuff that you were hearing. I really thought the Steelers were going to take him there. I thought it was a match made for them. It sounded like everything that all the conversations he had with Tomlin and the teams and stuff like that went really well. And when they passed on him, I was kind of surprised. And then I knew when the Giants traded back in that they were going for Jackson Dart. They had been enamored with Jackson Dart. They wanted to take him 3, but they were like, that's too high for us to take him.
Agreed.
And so when they traded back in, everyone's like, oh, is it going to be Shedeur? I was like, it's Jackson Dart. And for me, I think that was the right move. If you've listened, I think Jackson Dart is the second best quarterback in this draft. But I think that there's teams that are hung up on seems like the attitude, of Shedeur Sanders off the field, and then you got the arm strength questions, and some of these teams are sitting there going, okay, is the ability worth the off the field stuff? And I mean, I think it's way too early to say that about someone that's not even in your, system or in your building, in your locker room. And there, a lot of people, oh, he's not a locker room guy. Well, you don't know that for sure. We don't know that. There's a report that came out, from Daniel Jeremiah talking about there are several, GMs and coaches saying that he had the worst in-person interviews that they've ever had, for, draft interviews and stuff like that. And I think that really hurt his draft stock because it came out 2 days before the draft. And I think that really affected him. And like I said, I think he should have went in the first round. I think his talent is there. He's a young kid. So a lot of these young kids have these attitudes, these airs about them, like, oh, I know what I'm doing.
We've literally created it with the NIL stuff in since even in high school at this point. So I agree. 100% should have been drafted. I would still take him over Jackson Dart. I do like Dart, but I would have taken him over in this. There's some teams. I think here's a worrisome thing for me is I think Cleveland with 2 picks, a good chance he goes in the top. What is it? Top 6 picks that the Browns have in the second round. And that's a terrible fit. That's a terrible organization to go to. I would say trade me. I'm not, which would actually add to the narrative that it's not great. But I think people are absolutely dumb for not taking this guy because the narrative I watched on TV yesterday was a lot of people saying, well, he got sacked too much, or he threw whatever reason that they were trying to say. And I was like, this was a team that literally would line up, and the only thing they could do positive was to throw the ball. And if you are so one-dimensional, you are setting your team up to failure. That's what's in the comment section so far is what's wrong with the NFL owners and how does he not get drafted? I think we're on the same page. Tubby and I are different on the order, but we do agree he should have been drafted.
Yeah, and this is going to sound crazy too, but my surprise for tonight, I think that the Cleveland Browns take Tyler Shough from Louisville.
That is an ultimate Cleveland Browns thing to do, dude.
And because everything that you have seen leading up to the draft is that they have leaned towards Tyler Shough and Jackson Dart from what I've read and, some of the stuff I've seen. Yeah. So if that happens, I would not be surprised. I mean, I still believe that those top 3 quarterbacks are far and away above the other, how many other quarterbacks are in this draft. I'm not big on Tyler Shough. I don't think Shough should be drafted anywhere above the 4th round. And so the fact that these teams are talking about that, who he reminds me of? Davis Mills. When we saw Davis Mills,
solid, decent, okay backup.
Yeah, where everyone, he got drafted early in the 2nd round by the Texans. Everyone was like, oh, watch out for this kid. He was hurt. And it's the exact same narrative that you have with Tyler Shough. Was a big-time prospect coming out of high school, always hurt. And now, but he's got the live arm and he's big, blah, blah, blah. It's the same thing. We haven't ever seen him be consistently good. And we've seen it from Shedeur Sanders. And everyone knows I'm not the biggest Colorado or Shedeur Sanders.
You're not.
But I truly believe that he deserved to be in the 1st round, and he should be at least the 3rd quarterback off the board. And I think that they're going to lean towards it. I think the team to watch is going to be the New Orleans Saints early in the 2nd.
Yeah, I would agree. If the Browns do not take him and they take I'm not going to say your boy. I almost said that, but saying that is the ultimate Cleveland Browns thing to do, and they are so dumb. And I know maybe this doesn't age well, but let me ask you this, Tubby. What is the toughest challenge for an NFL quarterback?
The
toughest quality.
If you don't have a run game, you're going to struggle. If you don't have an offensive line that can't block, you're going to struggle.
True.
But it's coming in and learning the playbook and trying to.
Yes, it's the mental side of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if this is a dude that I know he can do it. He's literally, since the moment he has been picking up a football, he has done this his whole life. And you're telling me that the hardest thing, the most important quality in an NFL quarterback, because once they get there, they should all have the physical tools. If they get there, they should. And you're telling me you don't want this guy.
And that's one area where I think that his confidence helps him out so much. As much as I don't like the arrogance or whatever, but it helps him out because there's so many of these guys that will come in and they're so afraid to make the mistake. And then they make the mistakes. He's got that confidence in there going, hey, I'm the best player in this draft. That's what you want in a guy that you don't want the shy, passive quarterback. We've seen that and it fails every single time. And I think that it definitely helps him out. Yeah, I think Cleveland is the worst spot for him to go. I would much rather see him go to the Saints because of the dome. You talk about the arm strength. It is an issue. Well, if you're in a dome half of your games, and then on top of that, you're playing Atlanta twice, playing Atlanta at least once. You've got,
Carolina.
Yeah. You've got so many teams that you're playing in a dome where now the arm strength doesn't matter so much during the regular season. It may affect you in the playoffs or something. But we've seen guys that don't have great arm strength, Peyton Manning and Drew Brees, thrive in the domes. And I think that would be a good spot for him. As much as I don't like what's going on in New Orleans with, the camp and stuff like that. But now at least you go, hey, we can get us a high upside quarterback. Yeah, cheap. And now we can get rid of Derek Carr. We can do whatever we need to do, get back in there. And you've got a really good quarterback coach, and Kellen Moore is your head coach now.
Yeah, right there with you. All right, well, we're going to move out of the quarterback section for a little bit. Tubby, obviously, number one, Cam Ward. We already on board with that one. Travis Hunter getting traded up for mostly going to be wide receiver. They'll have some packages on the defensive side of him. Is this a franchise piece for the Jags, or do you think they're going to ruin him?
I mean, it's great for the Jags and Trevor Lawrence because now you got another weapon on the outside of Brian Thomas. It's just going to be how you manage the snaps. I know he is adamant that he can play every single snap. To me, it's just not realistic in the NFL like it is in college. It is a much more physical game. And on top of that, he is on the slender side. And so I definitely could see, playing, more like, nickel packages, playing in the slot if he needs to on defense and stuff like that, where he's not on the field on defense every single snap. But he's on there enough to make an impact, to make this worthwhile, being a two-way player and being like the first, legit two-way player we've had in some years.
Yeah. Was there another pick? I know you were pretty solid on all the players getting drafted that you just really – how about this? Let's give me your top three picks of the first round.
Okay. Yeah. So
and this will have to do a little bit with fit. Obviously, value could come into play depending on that kind of stuff. But go ahead. Sorry.
Will Campbell to the Patriots. Yeah. I have been talking about this.
Yeah.
This was the perfect pick for them. I don't care about the arm size, the arm length, whatever you want to say. He is athletic enough to play left tackle. The footwork, everything he has is suited for it. He's played left tackle his whole life. It hasn't affected him now. He was All-American. He started every single game at LSU. This kid is legitimate, and you give Drake May that protection on the backside that offensive line absolutely had none of last year. Then I really liked the Tetero and McMillan. I don't know if I'd put it in my top three. I love that because we saw Bryce Young take a step forward at the end of the season and really show potential of being a franchise type quarterback, and now you get him a big weapon. But I really like the Omarion Hampton pick by the Chargers. A team that loves to run the football, a physical offensive line. Now you get you a physical runner and someone that can catch the ball out of the backfield. He reminds me of Joe Mixon. He's like almost a carbon copy of Joe Mixon, wears the same number, same height, same weight, everything. Doesn't have that top end speed, but he's fast enough to break away. I love that in that system. And then the Chiefs getting Josh Simmons, the last pick of the first round. The guy that to me was a top 15 player. I thought he would go higher. I know the injury really hurt him in his lead up to the draft, but a team that struggled on the offensive line with injuries and not being able to have that left tackle. Now you got that left tackle. I think this kid is a legitimate left tackle for 10 to 15 years in the NFL as long as he is healthy.
Yeah, I mean, obviously health will always be a factor there, but the Chargers getting their running back, I'm like, when it comes to fantasy football season, I think the stock for him is going to skyrocket through the roof. He's one of the higher ones. The other running back, you didn't mention him, but obviously going to Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah.
Your Heisman candidate, your favorite, Genty.
Yeah.
You think this is going to be a good overall fit, scheme, system, location, all that kind of.
I think it's a great scheme fit. It's going to come down to whether or not they can get enough. If they can draft some offensive line or sign some guys. The offensive line was really bad last year, and so it's going to come down to, can they fix that offensive line? Because you can have a great running back. Like we saw a couple of years ago, Josh Jacobs. He led the NFL in rushing the year before. The next year, his numbers were so far down because that offensive line was so bad. So it's going to come down to, can they fix that offensive line? With a few picks and the upcoming rounds. But I love the fit because we know Pete Carroll loves to run the football, and especially a physical running back like Genty is.
Yeah. Well, how about this? Let's flip it. Now, obviously, you had most of these picks, all these players that were going to be drafted, but maybe the drafted fit isn't going to be great, or honestly, I knew they're going to be drafted, but I don't believe in them. What is the top 3 or worst 3 picks you saw in round 1 that you'd maybe this is the thing, lowest grades? How about that? We'll just say lowest grades for round 1.
I mean, can you guess who my top one is?
Where let me pull it up. I had that thought about it.
Just think how I think about
Oh no,
offensive line.
Tyler Booker.
I think that they needed a guard, but my philosophy over the last few years of doing this. I don't like Alabama offensive linemen. They don't succeed in the NFL like you think they should. There's only a few over the last few years that have been good, like Landon Dickerson. We have seen Jonah Williams kind of shape into a better right tackle than he was a left tackle, but he still hasn't lived up to the top 10 billing that he was. So I don't like that. I would have much rather them go with Matthew Golden or another defensive end edge rusher opposite of Parsons, because they lost.
Stop the run.
Yes, or even an inside linebacker. I'm surprised Jahad Campbell dropped as far as he did. And so I thought Jahad Campbell would have been a perfect fit there. Then the next pick, Kenneth Grant, to me made no sense. You needed secondary help so bad. You need safety. You lost Javon Holland. Nick Manamori not going in the first round to me is absolutely insane. He was a top 15 player for me. I don't know how he slid out of the top, first round. To me, I won't understand that. One, I think that can have some value, but still head scratching a little bit to me is Emeka Egbuka to the Buccaneers. I thought they needed secondary help also. But the other one is Tyleik Williams to the Lions. I like Tyleik Williams. He is a great interior run stopper. He has athleticism to eventually become a good pass rusher. But I think you needed an edge rusher opposite of him, like a Mike Green that slid out of the first round, or Donovan Ezeruku from Boston College. I think one of those two guys would have fit better, because you have Hutch, and he led your team in sacks and only played 5 games last year. He didn't have multiple. They were the only team in the NFL that didn't have multiple guys over 5 sacks.
Yeah. It's starting to sound like the Atlanta Falcons is what you're telling me. So I would agree on most of those. Same thing. The Detroit Lions, I think this is a classic move of, hey, no, we're going to get the big tough guys first, and we'll work our way outside. And you could see that fit help with maybe some of the edge rushers who dropped a little bit the depth quite. I can't remember what the grade was. I think you said for the edge rushers. Do you remember what star class you did?
It was a 5.
Yeah. So this is one of those that maybe I get it. Like there could be a good fit for you. So as you look, because we got a couple minutes, because we're going to have to wrap this up, so that way we can make sure we still get out there to watch the start of the second round. Who are some of the key players you think that find a home early, or maybe are going to be the steals towards the end of day 2?
Yeah. So the fact that Will Johnson did get drafted, I think a lot of it sounds like there are some concerns from the medical side that it may be a chronic knee issue, and that's potentially why he dropped. But if it's not, Will Johnson was a lock top 10 pick before the injury. Anyone I think takes a chance on him. I would in the second round. I think he is an incredible player. Nick Manowari, I've said it before. Yeah. He was one of my favorite players in this draft. He was my top safety. Someone's going to get a steal, with a physical safety, ball hawking safety. Shedeur Sanders will get drafted early, I believe. I don't think we'll see him on the board too much longer. But there's a couple guys in the third round. We're talking about, some wide receivers that I think that could really be some steals with the depth of this wide receiver class. Like Xavier Restrepo from Miami. I really like what he does. He is a old school, legit slot wide receiver who can get open, physical, can go up and make a catch. And Jalen Royal from Utah State, I think, is another guy that has kind of slid under the radar because he played at Utah State, but he is a take the top off it, high productive guy that I think you're looking wide receivers depth wise. I think those are two guys that are going to be steals in this draft. And then the running back out of UCF, I think, is another one that someone's going to get in the third, fourth round, and we could potentially see him starting this year if something happens.
Yeah, RJ Harvey, for those who are like, yeah. I like all those. You spread it out across the board too. You got offense, you got quarterback, you got. So, do you think today the highlight? Because the biggest highlight last year was offensive players taken early. This year it was like we're not seeing any quarterbacks. That's the storyline. So what is the storyline for day 2? Do you see it lean more towards the offensive side, or are we still? There's a lot of depth at a lot of different positions, and it's not necessarily BPA. It's best scheme fit is what more teams are going for here.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more scheme fit. Like I said, if the quarterback class was anywhere close to what we saw last year, this one would be on par with the depth that one was. But I think you look at all the other positions, there's so much more depth, I think, in other positions. Tight end this year, blow last year's out of the water. Wide receivers, super deep. You don't have the 2 or 3 really high-end guys that we saw last year, but you have so much depth there. Offensive line, edge rushers. The trenches, I think, is what's going to dominate the day 2. We're going to see it. And again, like we saw in the first round, everyone is seeing now that the game is switching to we need physical play in the trenches because the run game is coming back in. So we're going to see quite a few running backs go off the board. We're going to see more interior offensive linemen, defensive linemen, and tackles.
Yeah, I like it. All right, well, that's the word from Tubby. And so you already know this. If you haven't already hit subscribe, you got to hit subscribe because that's how you get the best information ahead of time. So you can even tell your friends at the draft party or at the NBA playoff watch party. You're like, yeah, I already knew this was happening. Did you already know this? Because you listened, because you heard Tubby say it. He's the best in the business. I'm just saying. So they got to take you to the draft. That's what they need to do.
I'm telling you, one of these networks, I'm free. I'll come. You don't even have to pay me. You just have to pay my room and board. I'll come and
just the per diem. That's it. I just need the per diem.
Yep.
Yeah, that would be great. Well, guys, we appreciate y'all joining with us with a quick live episode. Again, you can, if you're watching this afterwards or during the draft, feel free to put your comments in there. We'll come back. We'll respond as well. We will have more draft coverage next week this time because we're going to review the whole draft as itself. Maybe Tubby was going to have some grades. So again, later on those steals and then best fits. We're going to continue that conversation on. You know that at the beginning of the week, we'll have more baseball news. A lot of injuries are happening. So it's always stuff going on in the baseball world. But we're excited for round 2. Day 2 is starting in just a minute, so we're going to let you all go. But thank you all so much for joining today. We'll see you all next time.
See ya.
See ya.